Setup Moon Day here at Brave New Coin. Let's take a look at some interesting charts across the board here. I'm gonna start by talking about Solana. Again, I don't understand what the chain is. I've looked into it. I did a video August 5th on it. I said things look bullish. Cool, right? Watch that video. If you're a cloud skeptic or if you're a TA skeptic, watch the back half of this video and hear me out, okay? My point was, you have to treat every potential daily Kumo breakout as a strong potential for bullish continuation. We did get that here in this case. I'm not looking for clout. I don't care. I'm just saying this is why I do what I do. And I look at what I look at. So Solana did have a triple bottom like virtually every altcoin chart. You could argue inverted head and shoulders. You could have argued descending triangle as well. It looked 50-50. It didn't look solidly enough like an inverted head and shoulders across the board. But what you did also get was these trend metrics flipping. But then immediately after that, you have this rising wedge, which to me, classically, is a bearish reversal signal. You had this rising wedge with a bearish div on RSI, bearish div on volume. This is important because we're seeing this on ETH as well right now. We're seeing it on BTC. The question is always, will those coins follow coins that have already broken out? Or will they retrace, right? The next question you have, obviously, is if you're in Sol, what is your target here? If you're just measuring from wick to wick, the most recent local high, which is the all-time high, previous all-time high, to the March 18th low, March whatever low, sorry, May, May 20th low, whatever that is, that gives you a target between 80 and 100, essentially. So the question you have to ask yourself is, if I'm in this, at what point do I start to rotate out? Where's my stop loss? Or am I just going to hold this regardless, right? That's kind of the three pillars, if you will. Most people are going to hold this regardless of what happens. They're thinking to themselves, I'm the smartest thing that's ever crossed the face of the planet. This thing's going to 10x from here, right? The traders are thinking, okay, this is obviously not sustainable. This is going to probably retrace sooner rather than later, but it still has significant upside. So what do I do? As a percentage, I can start to rotate out of this and either into cash or into stuff that hasn't moved. And I keep beating this drum for the past couple of weeks on NFTs. I'll get to that at the end. On anything that's outperformed anything else, right? If you're confident that the entire market will lift upwards over the next couple of weeks, you're going to be rotating slowly out of this stuff and into other stuff. That's just common sense. We're lucky enough in crypto that we have 10,000 different pairs to trade between BTC pairs and ETH chip pairs and whatever else. So I'm not saying this is the top. I'm not saying this is the top forever. I'm saying, look, the reasonable people here are probably slowly rotating out of this, DCAing out of this with an eventual I'm out of this target between 80 and 100. Okay, that's the reasonable thing to do here. Here's the daily cloud. And the reason I was bullish on this August 5th is because we were getting this bullish Kumo breakout. Again, this is an example. I don't care about cloud. I'm not backpadding. I'm saying, look, this is why it's important to pay attention to this stuff on high time frames, using these signals especially, or these settings, because this does not happen often. This is unusual. This means trend reversal. In case you weren't sure on anything else, something like the cloud can help you figure out where to get in based on math, basically. Sol BTC as well, very same type of setup. I was saying, look, this is a falling wedge and it's leading into a Kumo breakout. Do I know this thing's going to explode immediately when that happens? No, I'm just saying when we get these Kumo breakouts, they typically are very bullish to the upside. Cope, another thing that's up 600% from the bottom. I have no idea why. I think it's garbage. I think it's a scam. This is a problem for crypto across the board. We get these meme coins, altcoins that are just massive P&Ds, kind of flavor of the week, flavor of the month type stuff. This is scary. Things like this that are up, things like Doge that are up, that arguably have no fundamental value. And you can argue transactional medium, whatever, whatever you want to think about, that's fine. But fundamentally, this stuff has no business being up here where it is relative to everything else. And even this looks good, but I'd be very careful, especially with stuff like Cope, with stuff like Doge, XRP, EOS, stuff that's dubious, right? Moving out to ETH again, it's got this rising wedge characteristic with a bear div on RSI, a bear div on volume, and definitely a bear div on MACD. This is the 12-hour Previously, we had a very similar setup, very similar resolution that actually held at the resistance for quite some time. 4 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever this was, 2 weeks. But anyway, it recognized that, it held here, it W'd out again and went for another run. This time we kind of ignored that resistance, that measured move target completely. It just kept going. So again, you have to think, is this going to be a Solana chart where this thing doesn't care and keeps going? Or is it going to actually retrace potentially back down to 26, 25, somewhere down here? And what you can use is the Williams fractal stops. Currently it's telling you anything below 31 and you're in trouble. If you use this as a full trailing stop, then you're getting out of your ETH completely if we break lower lows here. Can this be wrong? Sure. Is it kind of noisy on the 12-hour? Maybe, but since the bottom, it hasn't been wrong, right? We haven't broken down this bear fractal since the bottom. So the moment we start breaking those bear fractals with bearish divergences, I tend to believe it. I tend to say, okay, this is probably correct. It's time to jump out of ETH. And I'd much rather buy ETH based on the 12-hour cloud at 2,500 than at the current price. So I'm looking at divs, I'm looking at the 12-hour cloud, I'm looking at the Kijun. Mean reversion is all the way down here. Is it going to get down to 2,500? I don't know. Could it happen this week? Sure. But again, that's why you use a trailing stop. Let's say this thing keeps going. Let's say it doesn't break down. Then you're never stopped out. You're still in, right? Again, I'm not saying this is the top. I'm saying, look, if this then that trailing stop system hasn't been wrong since the bottom, this is one possible setup to watch, one possible trade to watch. If you're brave, you could start shorting this once we break fractals. Not something I would do personally or recommend, but something you could do certainly if you want to kind of hate trade this on the reversal. And on the daily cloud, we're still bullish, still above the cloud, right? But all the signals are not bullish. The cloud is not bullish yet. This has a little bit of time to go. We'll probably know in 2 weeks once averages catch up, once the cloud catches up. But right now where this sits doesn't give me massive confidence. I'd much rather trade Kumo breakouts that kind of look like this, where it sat in the cloud or at the cloud for a significant period of time, a couple days, a couple weeks before breaking out. It gives those averages a chance to reset kind of back to zero before going from fully bearish to fully bullish. Like the averages just can't handle that, which is basically what we're seeing here on the daily. We were fully bearish and then like in no time we're fully bullish again, right? And you could say this is the high time frame chart. This is these settings. They have an issue with the current speed of the market. All that's valid, but even on the 12-hour, it's just like, man, we are looking overbought. We look as overbought here as we did at the very top. I think this TKC clamp is actually starting to become larger than what it looked like here, and definitely larger than what it looked like here. So all I'm saying is be careful. Use trailing stops. Stuff looks a bit overheated, and this is BTC again. There haven't really been a volume pickup here on the daily or on the 12-hour on Bitfinex. Kind of weird. We did get that crisscross on the EMAs on the 12-hour. Again, bear div on RSI, bear div on volume, rising wedge potential. Currently, that trailing stop is down a bit lower at around 43K. But again, you have to ask yourself, do I think this is bullish or bearish at this rising wedge? There's definitely something here, right? Volume's declining. It's at volume resistance. You're either thinking this is going to head to 58 or this is probably going to retrace to 40. Those are basically the two options. I'm in the retracement camp, not because I'm not long enough, but because look at where we've moved from the bottom, right? Are you bullish on Cope making another, 600% move, wherever this chart is? Are you still bullish on Cope after a 600% move? No. That's not because I think Cope is garbage. That's just because that's not how markets work. We typically don't keep going up infinitely without some sort of retrace, right? Which is always why I say it's not going to go to infinity without you. There will always be an opportunity to get back in here. Cloud is still bearish. We're still in the daily cloud on the Coinbase chart anyway. And the mean reversion is all the way down here at 38K. Another question I get is, once we get these edge-to-edge moves, do I expect this to keep going? The answer is always no. Very rarely does this thing keep going past the edge-to-edge move. So that's something else to keep in mind. It's already up a significant percent. It already hit the target. It just needs some time. Give it 2 weeks, in my opinion, and then we'll know extremely clearly if this is a set it and forget it, Ron Popeil type trade, or if this is a you need to be in cash to buy the dip type trade. But I'm definitely watching this Kumo twist. I'm watching the daily cloud positioning relative to price. Even if we spike up to 59, 58, whatever it is, we're still going to need to mean revert eventually. So we're just delaying the inevitable, even if we break up. Solana is a bit of an outlier in that it triple bottomed. BTC didn't triple bottom like the alts did. So this had a reasonable amount of time sort of sideways, kind of held that range for a little while before breaking up. BTC, I think as a percentage for BTC is up a significant amount from the bottom. It didn't outperform Solana, but these aren't moves that BTC makes on the regular as a reversal trade. Some other hards or setups to watch that are kind of looking better and better to me is comp. This either originally looked like an inverted head and shoulders, morphed into a cup and handle, and now it's some sort of ascending triangle. I don't know. Still looks fine for continuation. Tons of volume. Resistance becoming support, hopefully. Again, if everything else is moving up and things that look like they should be moving up aren't, I tend to think those things will move up eventually, and that's where comp sits for me. Could go to 640, 720 range. This needs to break up before ETH and BTC break down, if they do break down. Because if ETH and BTC break down, then it's unlikely that the alts are going to go against the grain there. Everything else is going to break down. Solana could very easily just Eiffel Tower all the way back down to 45. I could see that in the blink of an eye if ETH and BTC break down. So comp's on a bit of a clock, as is SNX. SNX had crazy volatility here at the bottom, but it has a ascending triangle, or Adam and Eve currently. That should break up to 17 to 20. This may morph into an ascending triangle with a tight diag here, support around 11, whatever that is. Let's say it fails here, drops down. You don't want to see it making lower lows past 10, certainly, if you're expecting 17 to 20. But this looks good to move currently. And other charts to watch, like ZRX, where they've started their edge to edge, but they haven't completed it yet, right? This is like 135 to 150 target zone, somewhere in there, 145, based on this edge to edge. You can still re-long this down here at around 81. So the setup's still valid to me, even if we break down to 78, 81, somewhere down there. This could very easily just stall here, retrace to the Kijun cloud area, and then go for the move from there. Something else that's making me cautious here is borrow volume at an all-time high again on ETH, and stablecoin loans are almost completely maxed out in that there's less and less stable coin to be borrowed currently. Now there can always be more and more deposited, but as rates rise with supply and demand issues there, then that will make more and more people hesitant to continue to borrow. And eventually you're going to see this medium where it's like a roller coaster going up a steep incline. You're just click, 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 and then people stop borrowing, right? And rates get too high and prices stop increasing, and then everything goes down. This is always an issue with funding or rates, which is why people pay attention to this stuff, right? So I'd be careful there. And OpenSea volume is starting to go down. Looks like, I don't know if this is full data for the 15th of August, but this is on DApp Radar. Not a great chart to look at, but it's information to look at anyway. And you can see volumes are tick, 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 and here's the top of the roller coaster and everything goes down, right? So be careful with NFTs. If this trend continues where the free money ride roller coaster is over and people are starting to get out. I'm the last person to talk about NFT analysis, but if you're looking at volumes on OpenSea, that's a great place to start. Lastly, I'll just mention the ETH-BTC fund and DeFi portfolio. I trade for Techemy Capital on Enzyme.finance, a non-custodial portfolio management tool where you can send ETH or USDC or just watch what I'm doing. You can see AUM, allocation, performance, all of the yield plays I'm currently in, trades at the bottom here in the trades tab, where I'm trading for how much and when, as well as deposits and withdrawals. You can also see all the DeFi coins I'm trading in case you think I'm biased on certain pairs in the video. Full disclosure, it's all right here. That's all for this one. Like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe, and happy trading.